Sifiso, great to be in conversation with you today on
so
a very critical conversation that really does speak to the changing environment and appetite of investment, particularly for institutional investors in South Africa and the world over. And that's the growing interest that we see in ESG, environment, social, as well as governance issues. And that really does speak to the kind of interactions and engagements you must have with clients as you speak to them on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
But what do you witness in terms of client appetite, opportunities, and perhaps maybe even pain points that they identify when it comes to prioritizing ESG in their investment strategies?
Well, when it comes to ESG, right, you get lots of users of ESG data, but you also get lots of users of ESG data. So depending on what type of user you are, you'll have a different usage for an ESG type report. So if I think about asset managers as an example, they would use ESG data to integrate the data into their normal investment process. They would want to monitor their investment profiles or even create their own sustainability products. But I think what's great about ESG data is that these guys can also engage with their multiple stakeholders when reviewing their portfolios. So they can use ESG and monitor their scoring when they speak to their clients. Asset owners then, as an example, can monitor the asset users or the asset managers if they're acting in the capacity of a trustee, then they can engage them around their portfolios and where the ESG scoring is. So depending on the type of user you are, you will have different usage for ESG data.
Yeah.
Maybe I think it's important also to note that, this is an exceptionally complex world. There are multiple data providers of ESG, and all of those have got their own matrix and their own frameworks and their own standards. And so it can be quite frustrating for clients, institutional clients that we have. So then they will have challenges of understanding this data, of making sure that the data is of good quality. But like anybody else we would talk to, this data is quite expensive as well. So having this data and purchasing this data can be quite a challenge. So these are the multiple challenges that our clients might have.
I'm glad you highlight that, and we'll touch on the data in just a moment, just to understand how easily it can be accessed now through solutions that RMB specifically have brought to the table. But I want us to focus on those complexities, right?
Sure.
And you talk about the fact that the data is not measured in the same way, not collated in the same way. And when you're approaching business across a continent like the one that we're on in Africa, that also comes with its own nuances and challenges. Are we finding that there's some pain points to manage there as well when it comes to accessing, analyzing, and understanding data specific to African investment opportunities?
So particularly in our continent, in our African continent, the quality of data can be a bit challenging. So for our clients to understand this can be a bit of a challenge for them, because there's all of these multiple providers with the complexities that I was mentioning right now. And for our local or African institutional clients, accessing this data can be a bit of a challenge, but also understanding the quality behind the data and how to consolidate all of this can be quite a bit of a challenge for them.
Let's talk about that, because as you say, it's about access to the data first and then understanding how it's collated. Last year in September, RMB brought about a whole new solution to actually alleviate these challenges here through your ESG Sustainable Investment Suite, if I'm not mistaken. Help us unpack some of the new platforms that have been brought to the fore to essentially make your clients' lives a lot easier when it comes to analyzing data specific to ESG investment.
Lovely. So RMB then, like you said, came out with two ESG products. So it's analytical products that we launched into the market. The one is called ESG Now, and the other one is called ESG One. So what's beautiful about these platforms is that they can consolidate all of this data from the multiple providers. They can package the data in a form of in a way that clients can easily understand it. So they won't need people who've got knowledge into this. So we can package it where you can understand the data properly, but also be transparent around what actually is in the data. So if you've got a benchmarking of some sort and you want to benchmark yourself against your peers or benchmark yourself against the market, you can log onto our platform and you can see exactly where you're benchmarked in relation to the others. You can go into the E, so the environmental factors, and you can spot the actual assets that you're holding that are making your environmental factors to be either high or low. So you can go into that detail. You can go into the social aspects of your portfolio. You can double click on that, and actually on this platform you can say that you've got stock A, B, and C that is giving you a high scoring, because from a social perspective they're doing great, but also delve deeper into that and see those scores that maybe are not giving you such a great scoring. So I mean, clients then definitely can access this, but the beauty of it is that, like I said earlier on, that data is quite expensive. So we have packaged this, made it simple, made it understandable, checked the quality, but made it affordable as well.
And that's quite important. And I'm already intrigued to understand the take-up that clients have had towards this and how they've received this information. But I'm also keen for clients who might be sitting on the opposite end and thinking, goodness, this is a great solution, but how does it give me a competitive edge? And I guess help them stay on track and in tune with the investment criteria and objectives that they're hoping to achieve.
So clients in Africa can never fall behind of the international investment community. People who want to invest in our continent take into account ESG aspects when they want to invest, because they are required to do so. So we can never fall behind. So you would therefore need a solution like this for you to be able to engage with your investors, engage with your stakeholders, and be able to have a meaningful conversation around portfolios. So if they want to come in and use you as an asset manager, as an example, you can produce data that they can understand, that everyone can understand. You have providers that are internationally recognized that are sourcing this platform. So you'll be speaking basically a good language that they can understand. So if you have this, definitely gives you competitive advantage against your peers.
Certainly. Globally competitive, locally relevant in terms of the data that you're attaining, and of course making sure that you're keeping in line with these international trends in terms of investment.
And affordable. That's an important one to remember. Sifiso, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate the insight you've shared with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.